The fall is right here upon us, not officially the fall season yet, but it feels like it out there on some of these days lately. And to talk to us more about all the things you can do right here in Michigan this fall season, we're joined by Dave Lorenz, Vice President of Travel Michigan with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
It's great to be with you, Tyler. Always great to be with you. And you're right, that fall feel is starting to take over, isn't it? Last weekend, and actually a couple of days to end the prior week, my wife and I took some time off with some friends that we've known forever. We've traveled with them for, I think, 39 years every year, even during COVID. And we went to Beaver Island. Only the second time I've been on Beaver Island. For those of you who don't know Beaver Island, it's basically that cute little island that's about, I think it's maybe, I'm guessing 20 or so miles off the shoreline of Charlevoix, the beautiful. And what a different experience. Very quiet. You know, put Mackinac Island out of your mind when you're going to Beaver Island, because it's two totally different experiences. Both, though, with very interesting history. In this case, Beaver Island was once a kingdom. A very interesting story there. A self-declared king who operated as though he was king. People treated him that way. Some people didn't like that. They ended up assassinating him. And it's a fascinating story. But then when you get there, it's a really quiet, off-the-grid feel, and very slow, very island time, so to speak. Nothing really has to happen exactly on time except for the ferry service. And we loved it. Happened during their Irish festival, which is much smaller than I'm used to in Muskegon. And so it felt like we were in the front row for everything. And of course, some of those performers will be performing this coming weekend, starting, is it tomorrow, I think, in Muskegon for the Michigan Irish Music Festival. Big deal, by the way. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, plenty to think about. Michigan Irish Music Festival. You have in Frankenmuth, Oktoberfest kicking off, I think, tomorrow night. I'm tapping the opening keg. That'll be fun. The Sioux Film Festival. It's happening way up north. The North American International Auto Show. I know the Heritage Trail, the Freedom Trail, they're having a big event on Saturday in Lansing. I mean, there's something to do everywhere. I know I'm forgetting 10 different really big events, including Art Prize in Grand Rapids. How could I not mention that? So there's something to do. And I think this is the very best time of the year to travel in pure Michigan.
So let's talk about the North American International Auto Show. That's typically been in the winter season in downtown Detroit. It's been at the TCF Center, formerly known as the Cobo Hall, and now it's going to be in the fall. It's going to be in late September this year, if I remember correctly, and that's bringing a whole different element to Michigan travel, because people love to come to Michigan for, of course, the fall foliage, certainly during the summer season and the spring season. Those colder months of the year, sometimes for those that aren't skiers and snowboarders and love the outdoors, it's a little tougher to convince people to come here. So for that particular show, knowing how big of an attraction it is for car lovers around the world, how big of a benefit is it to the state of Michigan to now have that in downtown Detroit in a season where people are still flocking over to Michigan to travel?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Tyler, because when they first announced that they were going to have the show at this time of the year, I was a little skeptical, because the North American International Auto Show has always been, you know, that kind of quiet time of the year in winter in downtown Detroit. It's always been indoors entirely. So when they started talking about doing an indoor-outdoor event where you could actually drive vehicles like those electric vehicles that are coming out everywhere, I thought, okay, maybe this will work. But the more I've learned about it, the more excited I am about it, including I'm going there, Friday. Can't wait to be there for the big charity event, but also just to kind of see the show and see what's happening. So what they very smartly did is they found another time of the year, which for downtown Detroit wasn't exceptionally busy. Fall is not a big time for travel downtown Detroit. So they're going to do this indoor and outdoor. And I think it's such a smart idea now, because there'll be like tracks where you can drive, you know, some of the e-cars that are coming out. You're still going to be able to go into, I forget what it's called now, Huntington Place, TCF. I don't even know what it's
Yeah,
called,
I
the
think it's
former
Huntington
Cobo
Place.
Arena. So it's all happening there as well. And yes, it's the Lions season. And of course, Red Wings Pistons are starting up soon. Tigers are still playing. So you're kind of in between right now. I think it's a brilliant move now that I've had time to think about it. I think it's going to be great for downtown Detroit, for auto enthusiasts. And interestingly enough, for people who just want to go and see what happens at an auto show in today's world, you don't have to be a big auto geek to really enjoy it. And at the same time, still leaving the rest of the state for people to enjoy for all that fall color touring opportunity. And here's the interesting thing: the auto show is just about a week, is all. Um, and the fall colors really haven't started to change in the southern part of the lower peninsula yet. So all those people who want to find fall color this weekend, you need to go to the Keweenaw Peninsula. You need to go to the Upper Peninsula. It's starting to change in northern Lower Peninsula, but really not yet. So you're not going to really miss out for people down in Southeast Michigan. So you can do both. Auto show now, maybe go on that fall color tour in the backyard, or maybe a little bit farther north in the next couple of weeks.
And just lastly on the auto show, what does it do for tourism, particularly in Detroit, to have it now in a warmer part of the year as opposed to, like you said, the more quiet part of winter where it's been placed before?
Well, a lot of people just don't like to travel, especially to a big city in the wintertime.
Okay.
So where again, I thought, well, it was a great timing because there's not much else happening. I think people are going to travel more. I think they're going to have record crowds. And since they're indoor and outdoor at that very big space, I think it's not even going to seem overcrowded at all. It won't be. They've got a lot of space. I think you're going to be able to find hotel rooms as well at decent prices. So I really do. I think it's just kind of perfectly timed. You have to check it out. I'm looking forward to seeing it myself. I can't wait to see all the changes they've made.
So you mentioned some of the great places to go see some of the fall colors in the next couple of weeks. But for those that are waiting a little bit longer to get a greater spread of the state having the fall foliage be visible, what are some of those hidden gems of locations that people should be considering going to that maybe aren't as highly trafficked, but they can still see some great images, some great landscapes of Michigan as the colors change this fall?
Yeah, in fact, we just printed our fall travel guide. So the fall travel guide is out right now, available at the 13 Michigan Welcome Centers, and it's called Flip Guide. So if you flip it over, then you get the winter information right away as well. So either fall or winter, you're going to find them both in one easy guide. And I'll tell you, because we developed this magazine really during the pandemic time period. It takes a long time to develop these things. It's a pretty thin guide this year, but really good information in there. And it does talk about, I guess, what we would describe as hidden gems, those lesser known places that really offer great experiences. So right now, you really will want to consider the Keweenaw Peninsula, Copper Country. Hard to believe this really interesting, beautiful place is not really well known or well traveled. It should be much more traveled than it is because it has all this great history and culture. I mean, there's a little town there, Calumet, that at one time had like 60,000 people who lived there and worked there. They had so many people there because of copper that they considered that little town as a potential capital city for Michigan. Think about that and what it would have meant for the entire state to have all that activity way up there instead of in the center of the lower peninsula. Would have changed the way we operate. But there's a lot of interesting history and culture there that you can still enjoy, including going into mines like the Quincy Mine and some others. But the beautiful fall colors. I mean, you have never seen such beauty, especially if you're like a mountain biker, or if you don't like to mountain bike, maybe just drive up the beautiful drive that brings you up to Copper Harbor, and then go up to the top of Brockway Mountain. You kind of curl back around and you come up through the spine of the kind of the way the Keweenaw peaks. So you're up there at the top. You get to a little parking area. The wind will be howling in that area because you see Lake Superior to your right and to your left. It's everywhere. And in between this beautiful canopy of forest that will be in a variety, a palette of colors when you go at this time of year. It is an awesome view at any time of the year. It's spectacularly beautiful and something you can only really do there in that way. That's worth the drive at this time of the year just for the view. And then as you go around, you get all do all those other things. And by the way, whether you stay in Copper Harbor or a place like Lorium, there are some cool B&Bs there, the Lorium Manor and some others, other hotels and like Houghton Hancock, a really cool city. When you go there, you have that college feel because of the university being there. But then you'll find some interesting things. There's often performances at the theater. Make sure to go to the Seaman Mineral Museum. Unbelievable. Uh, I never thought I would find looking at rocks so interesting, but they've done a really good job at that museum. Among other things, you see Uper lights. These are these rocks that glow in black light. Turns out they're all over the world, so they have a good representation of them at the museum as well. Some quirky little thing to do, but you'll find a lot of things to do. Among other things, make sure to check out the National Park Museum on the Copper Country Experience. You'll love it as you travel back down. Make sure to go to Porcupine Mountains, go to see the Lake of the Clouds, which is an awesome experience. And if you have walking challenges, you can drive basically right up to the edge of the viewing area and you can see over. I think that's really nice. It's an awesomely beautiful place off of Silver City. And then wherever you go, if you're going to stay overnight, maybe consider a place like McLean State Park, which is right on the edge of Lake Superior. This is a great time, especially if you have those clear nights, to see the Milky Way, the wonderful shooting stars, and maybe even the Northern Lights. They were just out actually a couple of days before we got to Beaver Island. Everybody got the best views, except for us. We got there a couple of days late. So you never know. You can actually, if you want to try to time it to see the Northern Lights, whether in the UP or wherever else, this is a good time of the year as long as it's clear. And you can actually go do a search on your phone or laptop, Northern Lights in Michigan. There is an indicator there. They check out what's happening with the sun's rays, and then they tell you when you're best likely to see the Northern Lights. You have a lot of opportunities, so don't worry.
More information can be found on michigan.org/fall for all the information on fall travel here in the state of Michigan. Again, michigan.org/fall. And Dave, for those that maybe want to go see the foliage, but maybe aren't able to get out and travel across the state to see the colors at the peak of the season, there is something else that's being offered online, some webcams being offered. Where are those located throughout the state for those that would like to view those Michigan webcams and see the changing colors right here in the Great Lakes state?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because if you go to michigan.org, maybe just do a search for live cams and you're going to find them. Our partners with West Michigan Tourist Association have gathered up a bunch of the live cams all over the state. You're going to also find some of them on screens at our rest stops around the state as well. So you might want to just kind of take a peek if you happen to walk into one of those rest stops or the welcome centers, where again, you can find the guides. But what you'll also find is the fact that if you go to those live cams, you can decide, do you want to see what's happening at one of our ski resorts? Do you want to see what's happening at the Mackinac Bridge right now? Or many other places around the state. And it's interesting to think about. I never thought that this would happen, but I found myself looking at those live cams even at night occasionally. Most of the cameras are in areas with a lot of light, but occasionally you find one or two that doesn't have a lot of light. And you might even see some of that glow from the Northern Lights here and there.
Michigan.gov/webcams. Very easy to go find the Michigan.
Or just go to michigan.org and then do that search as well. Yeah, either way, you'll get to them.
Yeah, either way, you'll get to them. Michigan.org. You can find them. There's so many different locations: Mackinac Bridge, Western UP, Frankenmuth, Holland, West Michigan. No matter what you want to see, when you want to see them, those cams are available. Michigan.org webcams. Dave, a couple more minutes with you today, a few more minutes with you. Another staple of fall. People love to come to Michigan to explore all the many great cider mills here in the Great Lakes state. What are your favorite cider locations here in
Well,
Michigan?
that's an interesting question because one of my favorite mills, I don't think is operating anymore. You know, COVID was so difficult for so many businesses. So I would have to point out one that maybe you wouldn't think of normally as a cider mill. That would be Blake's Cider Mill. Now, Blake's is getting to be very well known for hard cider. And interesting, hard cider is really picked up its pace, like distilled products, craft beer, and wine in Michigan. And Blake's is getting to have distribution all over the country. I'm really impressed. They're experiencing for cider what companies like Founders and Bell's Beer did with craft beer. So people are picking it up all over the country, all over the world to some degree. But check out some of the Uncle, oh my, north of Lansing. Can't think of it right now. Everybody else is saying the name right now, but I can't think of it. But you'll find that on 27 or 127 going north of Lansing. And that's probably my favorite cidery for, for real cider mill, donuts, all that type of stuff. And remember that you can go to places like Lewis Family Farm over in Oceana County for the kind of the farm experience. This is a great time of the year to bring the kids to go to one of those cider mills, do see how the cider is made, have those donuts, and then do some of the activities that are often available, like corn mazes or other like pick your own fruit opportunities with apples coming out right now and pears and peaches and whatever. It's a really cool thing to do. Uncle John's. I can't believe I forgot something simple name like that. Yeah, so Uncle John's up there. I'm getting old, Tyler. I'm forgetting names.
It's on the tip of my tongue too. I went to Michigan State. We used to MSU telecasters. We used to have pretty regularly with some of the shows there, and the complete group would have trips up to Uncle John's Cider Mill. So I'm surprised I forgot that too. Right on the tip of the tongue happens sometimes. It's live TV.
Well, the cool thing is you can go to michigan.org. You can do a search for cider mills. You're going to find both the traditional cider mills and then the hard ciders as well out there. They're all over the place. And this is a great time of the year to travel. September is I think my favorite, and it is the perfect time to travel. Kids are mostly back in school, so it's quieter. You get the better deals, those very comfortable days that are still, kind of warm during the day and the cold, cooler, crisp nights in the evenings. Sweater weather for golf, which is a great time of the year. Again, quieter out there, better deals. Man, it's the perfect time to travel in pure Michigan.
It really is. And all that information can be found on michigan.org. Dave, anything else for us today?
As we always say, your trip begins at michigan.org. And what we mean by that, when Tim Allen always tells you that, is it really is, it's a great source of information. And what I always do, I just kind of look things up on the search bar. If I'm looking for a certain thing, look it up at the search. But go there right now. We just switched over the website to the fall content. You're going to see this beautiful video running right on the home page, showing you all these things you want to see and do through the fall season. And then search down the section. Look for places and people that maybe you haven't seen for a while. Get out there and explore. Don't put it off. There's so much to do. Get out there.
Trip begins at michigan.org, as Dave said. Thanks so much, Dave.
Good to see you, Tyler.